very high.
Everything's at a very high, like a high point at the moment.
But it is pretty hype too.
It is.
Yeah, because I'll be reading like, oh, that's my reaction.
Dude, that's why we're gonna finish with JuJutsu, because oh man, this was my favorite chapter this week. Like, you know what, man? It's not the conclusion of the series, but you know what? I won't even say it yet. We'll just get into it. Last week, actually, that video is not up yet, but that video will be up, right?
Oh,
is that uploading right now?
Well, it'll be uploaded, before this comes out. So
anyway,
but yeah, on to chapter 132, Shibuya Incident Part 49. But continue.
But I was going with the foreshadowing, I guess, aspect, and we were talking about what was the answer to the foreshadow going to be, because it talks about how the Black Flash can't be used by anybody at any moment, yet that's what Itadori was banking on. And I did enjoy how that was the very first thing addressed, because that was in the back of our minds, right? How is this going to be dealt with? And it's interesting to see that, I guess, it still just kind of happened from the standpoint of, he does the hit, right? Initially. So, I don't know. I liked that personally. Sorry, I'm flipping through right now. My apologies.
No biggie. Like the hit that basically, he thought he was gonna win. It was just kind of it was pretty surprising, but I mean, I wanted more, if I'm being honest.
Really? Well, okay, so we see Mahito do this transformation thing, right? And we go through his thought process of how he's gonna do it.
Well, it's funny because I thought that initial hit during the beginning, the first few pages, I'm like, oh, is that it? Like just another delay hit, but I guess more control. But then obviously when we go towards more of the chapter, it was definitely more satisfying as I read it.
Yeah, I would agree, because that's the saving grace. That's what makes it really, really good. And it's kind of that build up too, right? Because you're going through the motions as Mahito in those couple of panels. You know what's going to happen from his perspective. And to be honest, I enjoyed that more, because the really cool thing, I guess, about writing as a whole, when you do third person omniscient, is when you choose to focus on only one character and you cut off from the other, it makes you question, like, what's that other character thinking? Like, what's that other character experiencing?
Yeah, especially the other character being the main character, the main protagonist.
Yeah, right? Which is weird, because normally you would experience it from the main character's perspective. But I love that kind of gets flipped, because you're sitting there and you're like, I win. And you're like, is this about to be like a Mahito story? Like, what's about to go on here, right? And then boom, we get that second impact. And then I loved, again, just that transition, because it gave you that mystery. Like, well, how is he going to survive this? This seems like it's an open and closed book to me. And then it flips it, and then you get to see Yuji's side. And I was blown away. I thought it was so great to see we get that explanation, because it's funny as well. It's your favorite fight that he figured out how to do this.
Yeah. And then continuing on, where like even after the delay hit, you see someone speaking, and guess who it is? It's goddamn Goda the Todo, man. This guy is like a trooper. I was honestly like, because we know his hand got cut off, right? And he's still alive because he protected himself from his attack. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was like, oh, he still has his power, because I for like, oh, maybe he can still use it if like slap his knee or something like that. Maybe he just needs the sound, right, of a slap of his boogie woogie, because whatever the way he speaks about it. And then you see Mahito, the next the spread, the 2-page spread, turn around and I'm not gonna lie, when I first read it, I'm like, why is he in that position? But like me rereading it and a couple of times before our recording, I'm like, oh, he turned around because he assumed that he was gonna switch places. It was such a great like misdirection, because we know, and we talked about this before when it comes to JuJutsu Kaisen, where like even with Naname, right? They tell their powers to their like adversaries and villains they fight, because
it stresses you out to know the ability. It adds to your problem, and like, because it's weakness, but you also know, especially with one like Todo's, you don't know what he's gonna do, and that's what makes it fantastic, right? To be honest, I think that's one of the most kind of devilish concepts to go into a series, because if you look at something like Hunter x Hunter, right, where the whole idea of Nen is you need to keep it secret because when you know the foundation of it, you can counter it. But
Yeah.
cursed energy and cursed power doesn't work like that. And I
Yeah.
love that it like adds to the stress when you tell people.
And we talked about this before, where it benefits you if you tell you like, "This is my power. Let's see how you're gonna deal with this."
Exactly. And it kind of makes Toto's almost OP. Before we hop a little bit further, the one thing that I found very funny is not even funny, I guess. It was interesting to see where, as you mentioned, it's Todo talking, but that first panel where we see him and he's like standing there, like, Itadori, I am your savior, basically, right?
Yep, I'm here.
Right? This huge shining light behind him. It's fantastic. It's also very interesting that what he says, right? He's like, the arms are merely a distraction. The act of applause is an acclamation of the soul. I was like, that's kind of.
And it's funny because he could hear him, so he's like, "Oh, damn, this guy still could do his
Here,
thing."
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
here now, that's why he turned around, the panel before he said, the acclamation of the soul, where you see, Mahito, kind of like changes, and you could definitely see the art in his eyes. Were like, I need to get ready, but
Oh yeah, it's fear, right? Like it's like, no, I can't lose to this. By the way, you also just got to give Todo further props. And again, you said go just again certified badass status because this man literally has a stump, and he literally like the force that's drawn with.
yeah,
He was selling that clap, right?
yeah.
There
And
was no
it
way.
didn't even make a clap sound. It makes a whamp. I'm seeing like the text box. I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
exactly, right? Because he can't make the same sound. And then, as you mentioned, right, we go to that next double spread. Mahito's already turned, but Itadori hasn't moved. And, that
I mean, yeah,
all I can
Mahito's
think of is the meme. That's the
yeah,
moment Mahito knew he done fucked, right? Like,
yeah. Like,
ah,
we didn't switch, and then sadly, as his curse technique is dead. So like,
well,
damn,
that's
man.
what I guess I'm a little confused about. But so he literally can never use it again because he needs both hands. Like, but
I,
he can do it with someone else because he already used Mahito's hand, right?
yeah. Well, so
So I
I
wouldn't
think
see it. Couldn't he just make another? Like, couldn't he get a prosthetic? Like, that's what I don't understand.
I'm not sure, honestly. That's a good question, but we have to see. I really don't know. I think
I get.
I think that was just more like a scare tactic. Like he was like,
I know. I don't disagree. I'm just,
oh,
I guess, a little
why would he do
confused by
that?
the
Yeah,
specifics because,
especially he says that his curse technique is already dead. So like,
well, he
don't.
could be at a cursed energy though.
It could be that too.
So, like, there's unfortunately not enough connotations for us in that front. Because honestly, honestly and obviously, I don't want to see Toto out of the series and being like a backline character. I love to see him there. So
Yeah.
I hope he's not gone. And with that,
Going on to the next page with he thought he was gonna switch, but no, boom, the black flash, man. Or I guess
for the
yeah,
like 10th time in this fight.
exactly. And he's like, and that's probably like the 100% of it, where
Oh yeah, well that's what he was saying, right? I think that's why Mahito doesn't usually go flying like that from Itadori's hits.
no, not like that, where
And
you
this
like,
man just got bodied. He went
yeah,
flying.
and
So
you see the debris, and he's like he launches, all that air dust and everything, and even like tries to like grab himself to the ground. Yeah, he got hit pretty hard. Because like even the first one, when he got hit, like, oh, I've still got damage even in my transfiguration machine. Wait, transfiguration form. So because it's still
I got
affecting.
him. No,
Yeah,
exactly, right? And then this is obviously the final strike. He de-transforms, he devolves, and then he's just sitting there. And it's crazy because this is already the first panel where you can begin to see his fear.
wow.
He's like he's just wide-eyed, and then dude, Yuji hasn't truly spoken
No,
really in the last little while, right? Like other than the chapter with Todo, he's been really silent. And because there's also been this perspective mostly from Mahito, like yeah, we had a little bit of Yuji last chapter, but it was more impactful to just have him kind of come out of nowhere with this because him having this realization hasn't been revealed to us yet as a character. It's being again like revealed to us
wow.
right here, and that's fantastic. And it was crazy because one of the big things I've been, I guess, kind of pointing out is they're kind of like reflections, right?
Yeah, and we have talked about this before, where like we're essentially they're a pseudo the opposite, where he's being born and he's the Yuji has to die in the end. So I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same what he's talking about, but they do acknowledge. Yuji does acknowledge it.
Oh no, and that's what I love, right? He literally says like I'm you, and that's crazy because this whole scenario has obviously changed Yuji. He lost Nanami. We don't know what happened to Kugisaki. We gotta find out. We still don't even know what's gonna fully happen with Gojo, right? He's still in the prison thing, so I don't know. This was just a huge, huge turning point for him as a character, and this short but sweet and very to the point dialogue really surmises that. And bro,
Yeah,
he's done, right? I'm gonna kill you. You come back as another curse, I'll kill you. You change your name, you change your form, you do it again, whatever, I'll kill you again. And then
those lines that he's like, they were like super impactful when I was reading it. I was like,
oh, dude, because they're so cut and dry, right?
yeah,
And
I was like, damn, Yuji was like
so short, and then it's just like I'm gonna kill you, and you're like, wow.
and he knows like maybe this doesn't even matter, like my actions will like it doesn't matter like 100 years from now, and like I'll just keep doing it. I'm like, holy crap, Yuji. Like,
no, that's crazy though, right? And it's just interesting because he says I don't need to find meaning or a reason, yet that's kind of been a point, right, of the series. And
yeah,
it's just, I guess, interesting because I don't know, when he had that conversation with the principal, right? Oh, I don't want to have regrets, but you're always going to have regrets, versus like this is that taken to like a 10. Like no regrets, no meaning, no reason. This is just what it is. I live to kill curses. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
He knows his role. Like he has a conviction of his role, especially with Mahito, who's like done horrible things, and he's seen it. You know what I mean? Yuji's seen like him do horrible things to other humans, so that just like burns them up even more. Even like the oh my god, the jellyfish guy.
Yeah.
Like he has that hate from like the jump, since they both encountered each other. It just solidified him more, and I feel like
would agree.
And I feel like with everything going on, I think with all that anger when he became Sukuna controlled his body and like just demolished basically, it looked like he demolished Shibuya downtown, man. Cause most of those really gone. I think that's just solidified him more to be cold and angry. And at least in this part that we see when he mentions like keep killing curses.
Well,
Like,
and I think that's kind of twofold though, because I agree with what you're saying, and then it's interesting that you say cold, because when we go to like the next 2-page spread, it turns into this hunter and prey relationship, right? And then they're out in like a wintry field, and obviously Yuji's displayed to be the hunter of the wolf, and then Mahito is like the scared rabbit running, right? So it's interesting that you're saying that, because I agree, and it's almost like as well that there's this idea of him, I guess, almost not being human now. It's like I'm a cursed killing machine kind of thing, which is interesting because that was kind of never the intention before. So it's interesting to see that role embraced so wholeheartedly and then personified, or I guess like animalified, if you will, in this.
Yeah, we have never seen. Pretty funny because actually, this reminds me of a panel from Chainsaw Man where it's very similar, and so to speak, where it's like, oh wow, okay, I just found that very referential. Where like, oh, that was kind of interesting because there's a moment in Chainsaw Man where something's happening like imaginary, where like someone's getting killed, but it's in
Like
so to speak.
this.
Yeah, so to speak, in this like scenario was like, oh, it's like a snow environment, but it's not really happening, right? This is just like the imagery of like a prey and
Yeah, exactly. It's like the symbolism behind it, right?
yeah. And I mean, I don't know what else to say about the chapter other than like, well, we see Ghetto. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's what I love, right? It's interesting because you see, I gotta stop saying that. I think I love the contrast when you go to the next page, because Itadori's already been set up as this wolf and this hunter, and then you see a bigger, badder, glowing eyes. You see an even like, you may be, the alpha in this relationship, but I am, the alpha and the, sorry for that cliche, but it's crazy, right? Because that's the impression it gives you.
Basically, right now, it looks like it's going to be two wolves against, not two wolves against, but it's two wolves going after the same meat, and they're both hungry, and whoever gets the meat is gonna eat. If you know what I mean. Like,
Well,
Ghetto's gonna
maybe
kill him.
though, but like,
I think Ghetto's gonna kill him, man. Like,
you think Ghetto's gonna maybe. That's interesting that you say that because, oh man, when it's a curse, shall I save you could mean anything, and realistically, he's just been using Mahito, right? Like
and the other, yeah, he has been.
so oof.
He has his own agenda. We still don't know his like true purpose. I mean, he took over the guy's brain. That's still him, but it's not him. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
It's well, we're gonna see some flashback on that soon because this fight is not ending how I thought it was. I thought Sukuna's powers were gonna make a appearance, but that's clearly not the case. I have no idea what's about to happen because Itadori's got nothing. Todo's got nothing. They were both supposed to have a 90 Todo's supposed to have a 99% chance of living. So what's about to go down? Who's left to save the day? There's no one, as far as I'm aware, on the sorcerer's side.
No, you're right. Yeah, because
Maybe the people coming back on the train, but I don't know. A lot of the like staff got killed on the outside, right, by the crazy person. Megumi's down. Sukuna's most likely not coming out again. There's I have no idea where this is about to go. This was not what I was expecting.
I don't either, and I mean, yeah, I have no idea. Because this battle's still going on, so I have no like theories or like not even theories, just like conclusions to go on to the next chapter. Because I'm like, this is still going on. Like I have, I don't know who's gonna show up. Like you said, Gojo is still in the prison. So I mean, going over the chapter itself, I enjoy this conclusion. It was kind of a surprise to see Geto. I'm like, oh, right, he's still here. So
yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's interesting as well, though, that you're saying that because I had forgotten as well. And the thing that I love about going back to, I guess, the predator prey thing is I think you're right about who's going to kill him now that I'm thinking about it, because that makes the contrast like it's more punctuated, right? By they're both wolves, because we constantly have thought of Mahito as a wolf, right? We've previously, at least, he's been the big bad, as it were. He just transformed into this crazy thing, right? It was literally transfigured, killing, and you're sitting there like, what? Okay, that's crazy. So you're thinking this guy's an apex, and then so he gets turned into this small, sniveling little animal, and I guess it kind of grounds the reality of the threat that Mahito truly is within the actual size, I guess, of the universe, maybe of like the JuJutsu Kaisen universe, because I think it's safe to say Gojo would have, mopped the floor with Mahito.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like in the words of Obi-Wan, there's always a bigger fish. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
wasn't it Qui-Gon Jinn?
Oh, it's fine, Gaijin. You're right. Sorry about
no worries. It's difficult to say how, now that the wolf, I guess, is finally truly showing its fangs, how that's going to change the story and everything going forward.
And I don't know how much Yuji can go on, man.
Oh, he's done too. That was supposed to be everything that's left, right? So this is a great cliffhanger to set up next week, and it was also just a great conclusion to that fight. Fantastic fight, amazing art the whole way, and then right when you kind of think it's over, it just switches gears, brings in the bigger threat, and you're thinking, oh, right, you aren't the actual big bad. This is the big bad. What's gonna happen now? So.
But yeah, can't wait till next week, and that's about it when it comes to our Jump reviews.
Yeah, man. Well, let's wrap it up here, and we'll be back next week for further stuff. We gotta get a little bit of content catch up, just due to, actual work and jobs, things of that nature. So we'll get it all up there, and stay tuned for more.